And it's not just about putting a review with a 5-star on your website. It's really showing through a case study, something interactive, that you're expert in that particular problem you're solving.
All right, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking with Dominique, who has created a very interesting SaaS platform as well as worked with a lot of interesting businesses, and dive into some of the things that she's worked on. So Dominique, welcome. I would love
Hi.
to have a little introduction, kind of understand, tell the audience a little bit about what you're doing and what you've been building, just for context here.
So 2 years ago, after 5 years in the e-commerce and SaaS industry, I decided to build my own company with two main focuses. One was creating SaaS, like micro SaaS, for platforms for e-merchants in connection with Amazon, helping them retrieve data. And then because we had a lot of experience and my team had a lot of experience in the whole industry, we also had a part of the company that was really focusing on custom solutions for enterprises. So we were building custom SaaS for each company that needed a new system.
Okay, very interesting. And so also, how did you make that transition? Because I know before we worked together, you were kind of working for a company that was kind of similar. Maybe walk me through, like, how did you come up with the idea, or what was sort of like the point where you said, okay, I'm going to start my own company and dive into this?
Yeah, because, well, in the former company I used to work for, I saw that it was a huge opportunity, a huge market, and especially that it's worldwide and it's not tailored to one region. And while I was in there, I also saw I had a really good knowledge of what clients were expecting, what they didn't find on the market, especially being very, I used to be very customer focused. So I had a lot of merchant feedback at first. And yeah, the company I worked for didn't necessarily run things how respecting that what merchants needed. So I said, yeah, why don't build something similar, but really merchant obsessed.
Okay. Yeah, I love it, because I think a lot of companies that we see they take something that's kind of proven or that has a marketplace, right? And then they're just like, oh, okay, they have really bad customer feedback, or they don't have good systems in place for handling like this and that. So I think it's really smart. So I'm curious, so when you started to go about this, like, let's talk a little bit about sort of the marketing side of things. But what would you say, going from zero, starting from a completely new company and actually like scaling up, getting your first users, like what was something that worked then versus like kind of how do you think about it now that you have a customer base and you've got those reviews?
I think at the beginning, it's really about focusing on releasing a product, releasing your MVP, and not be afraid of not having a perfect product from the start, and then building your product and improving your product with merchant feedback, and also growing your team of experts around you so that they own the product as well, and they're able to see when beforehand and anticipate what will be the merchant's need afterwards. So it's about, yeah, growing your team at the same time as growing your product, and supporting merchants so well from the start that you just get the positive feedback, at least for the effort, and solving the real issues from day one.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when we started, you're like, look, the reviews, you just look at your competitor reviews, and it's very different. Even though if you only had a few reviews starting out, it was like glowing reviews of the product and of like, oh, the team is great. I really have this 24-hour like support from people that know what they're talking about. And if you looked at competition, it was like, well, there was just this stark contrast. So you're saying it's really good to focus on really good support feedback. Like, even if you don't have all the things implemented, you're stepping up as a service, and just like helping them out with solve their problem. Is that kind of a fair classification?
Exactly, taking the time to listen to them and to implement what they need at that time. And now everything is easily changeable. Also, the way I structured my company is to have, obviously, our base is in Europe, and our marketing team is in Europe, design and etc. But being able to have developers on different time zones that are all implicated on the same project really helps out, because they overlap within their shifts. They can exchange, exchange their ideas, grow the product, and always have that guiding step with, okay, we're implementing this first, and this is an urgent request. This feature will be useful for other merchants later on. This is a really strong point. And we don't have to spend hours just thinking about what we're going to do in the future. It's just, boom, we have a problem here. Let's solve it now. What's the best way? And yeah, we're all 24/7 at the end of the day.
It's a really good point. And from also running a team that's global, right? You have people in Europe and Asia and America and wherever. How do you deal with that? Because you're also, you have a family, you have a life, you like everything else, but how do you kind of create something that's your version of balance? And if some people have balance, some people it's like 95% work, that's their balance. But I mean, what's your journey been with balancing a team that's all over and your own needs and personal life?
I mean, yeah, obviously there's it's a learning curve it was a big learning curve for me as well, and having to really set tight boundaries. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from anywhere. So, having to be able to work at home. So I would know that like during nighttime is the time where I have the most quiet time. So I would arrange my days around that, to have time with my family. And then at the same time, having core members of my team I really trust. I know that, with the vision, when the vision of the product is clear, then yeah, I can rely on them to make interesting decisions.
So yeah, you're balancing a team across the world. You've kind of got your personal life. Do you think Europe is optimal for managing a team that's around the world, or do you think that you'd rather be somewhere else? Or you've been to different places. Like how is it actually in Europe? Do you feel supported and all this stuff?
Yes, obviously, Europe for me is one of the best places to run a business from. So a lot will say not from a tax point of view, but having the safety net that we have here, as well as the time zone is really perfect, because where you can deal with Asia in the morning and with the US in the evening. So you're really at the center of it all. The only time is when they overlap. You're probably sleeping at that time, I hope for you. But that's yeah, no, Europe is really a steady, good place. And also when you want to just go out and do something, everything's at your doorstep. So you can also find good time to relax and chill. Yeah, it's not too busy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very cool. I think I'm curious. So just I'm on X a lot, and I'm seeing like all this stuff about AI and just really in the tech space there. I see a lot of the sort of people that are, you'd say like influencers or something like that in the space, like Mark Lowe or some of these like levels.io, these guys that are kind of programmers doing the living abroad kind of thing. They love to rip on Europe. They love to just really dig into Europe for its tech policies. And I think for a long time, it was just like very critical. I'm not sure if you know these guys, but like they're very critical on that side of it, of like, it's in a way, it's been anti-innovation. And these guys are like, hey, I would rather leave, find some other place to do business, find a tax haven, and kind of like peace out. So I'm curious from your perspective, what is your experience like being in France as an entrepreneur?
Yes. So, well, OpenAI just opened offices in Paris right now. So I think that actually this regulation and that Europe is doing is also wanting to be, as the old continent that we are, wanting to set limits to something that can quickly get out of hand. And still, innovation's really pushed. So yeah, with on the government side, at least in France, and I know in other European countries like Germany or Portugal, for example, there's a huge tech community pushing entrepreneurs to start. Women in tech is also a big topic. Every year there's the Web Summit in Lisbon that gathers over 20,000 people. No, there's a lot of activity there, and a lot of also solo entrepreneurs that are interested, that go through regulations. Yes, we are taxed. Yes, we can't employ people and just use them for a bit. And so, yeah, there's a framework to respect. But once you know the ins and outs of the system, you actually get, and you respect that framework, then you actually get a lot of support from government and from the community here.
Yeah, that's very cool. I remember you were glowing after you came back from one of the summits, and you're saying how you met all these cool female entrepreneurs, which, with the internet and everything, we actually can have access and like stay connected, and you have your own like groups of people. So that's really cool that there's some support that's counter to the narrative that you just see on on some social media as well.
Yeah, well, when you see that only 2% of us get funding for our startups, And yeah, 98% of men get all the funding. So we know we have to work without necessarily investors for now, but in the long run, we're hoping to bridge that gap, or at least we've got the government to support us slowly now.
So I'm curious on sort of that strategy front. I mean, was it obviously like the statistics are not in your favor there, which I didn't even know were so crazy. Is that something that you would have chosen to do earlier on and say, hey, let's just go get funding and then we can, really get the sales and marketing budget, scale it up, build a great product? Or are you happy with the bootstrapped route? Like, tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, obviously I had that question before. I'm lucky enough to have people that know my skills and that believed in me, and that private investors that helped me from the start to get a little bit of funding. Obviously, it wasn't at the amounts that a fund would have financed, but yeah, the bootstrap I think is the best way to build a product. It's the less risky as well, because yeah, it's only your personal funds, and you have to work and be very lean from the start, and also find strategies to get out there to get known without necessarily have huge budgets in advertising. But at the same time, it forces you to focus really on your product and to have a really really good offer for your clients, because that's your only social proof. You can't just pay and have 1,000 downloads overnight. So word of mouth is very important, reputation. But back to women and men in business, I think women take more time to decide to start a business and don't like taking risks as much as men. But then once we're actually in it, we're in for the long run. So
Okay. I have actually that brought something up that's kind of interesting. Is you talked about taking risks. I'm curious. Both of us have talked a little bit about our enjoyment of poker and sort of risk and risk management and sort of risk assessment. Do you think that experience, or sort of in like calculating risk, has that informed your decision making as a CEO, as an owner, as a capital allocator? And if so, how?
totally a poker game, because you need to calculate your odds, your probabilities, calculate your risk for sure. And there's also a psychological factor that's very important. Take care of yourself. Don't put all your don't go all in on one thing. Pace yourself. Check out who's sitting on the table opposite to you, and learn to read it. See how they evolve during the year, and you don't just jump into a partnership like that because the person seems to have overnight success. Yeah, everything's about pacing, calculating your risks, and not put your eggs in one basket at once. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're really a testament to that, of not putting all the eggs in one basket, because most of the SaaS companies that we're working with, they're sort of like, they're a B2B company, but you took an interesting approach of having created functionally a B2B and a B2C sort of service solution software. Like, so you had more of the Shopify side of things, where you have more of like a traditional download, product-led growth motion, where people are, over time you have more reviews, more people interested, downloading. And then you also have this side where you're developing, solutions for larger enterprise clients, and that have really complex solutions that are not scalable. And you can't just copy paste that to a bunch. So I'm curious, what was sort of the hardest part about building that B2B side, more of the sales-led growth, and really working with sort of like enterprise clients?
I'd say the B2B side is more complex, because obviously there's more requirements, and you really need to get inside the person's company and understand what's his setup, how he works, and what value your SaaS is actually going to bring to him. And you can't just come up with an out-of-the-box solution. So you can use your apps that are on Shopify, for example, as social proof of, we're dealing with a large number of downloads, so we have the processes right, and we have that amount of orders coming in daily. We can do this for you. So that's just about efficiency. But then you really need to think of the architecture and what is the end goal for that client is to have a system with zero maintenance. It's a one-time fee he'll pay, and it's like an investment and an asset for his company. And if ever he needs to sell his company later on, he'll say, okay, but I have this full IT system I built that works perfectly with with my company as a whole. And also, yeah, and that's once again where it's really cool to have people that are living in the US that know, for example, if your client's American, how it works there, or people living in Asia. And yeah, every company, whether it comes from their origin, you need to really adapt and adjust to what they need. And that's a lot of time with the CEO.
A lot of time with the CEO. Okay. Yeah. So it's really about like, I didn't even think about it that way, but you creating IP and that technology for the company that's very custom to their own solution actually is really positive for them if they go to sell, if they go down the road to do something else, because they're like, hey, look, we have something that no one else in the market has that's really custom for our processes. So in that way, it's probably really great for your sales process too, of a very different sort of frame for the sales calls as well.
Yeah, and for his statistics, because he will see beforehand, before the system, how his sales were going, and then after the system's in place, he will really see the results. And that's where, yeah, we're happy always because we get good results.
Yeah. No, I think that also makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of things changing, so it's interesting that I'm curious. Like, do you have much of sort of like a longer term relationship when you work with clients, or do you find that you usually this one time build out is kind of more like it comes more often, I guess.
Well, once you get to take the time to know the company, figure out what his pain points are, usually people that are running a whole company, they don't necessarily have a CTO in place if they're not a tech company. So if they can delegate that to anyone, you quickly end up being their support or for everyday errands. And yeah, so there's also a limit to put in that, but once you know the company, you can also have like obviously maintenance contracts in place, or then now that they know they have a solid tech partner, they're going to want to build more things that are tech related as well. For example, for one of our clients, he started off with building a system for his company, and then he said, okay, but now I can see that like the Shopify app industry is booming. So let me build a Shopify app using my products, and things just come because the client also sees the potential and knows that they have a solid partner next to them to, yeah, that understands them and that knows where the market goes. So that's where also your knowledge of marketing as a CEO, being able to show, okay, I can sell tech, but I also know how you can sell this because I've been doing it with my own products. That's very helpful to them too.
I mean, that's fascinating. I never expected. So you built software for a company that was a custom in-house solution, and then they went ahead and said, hey, this is so great, we're going to then sell this as a SaaS to make more money and sort of.
Oh no, they actually had like new ideas for new apps using that type of technology, but yeah, and wanting to maximize their profit with their own products. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it's
That I mean, that's a
just you start with this one little contract, and then yeah, and also tech is like when you have the client's servers in hand, like it's a mark of trust. Like, obviously, there's contracts and there's NDAs in the middle, but you're holding his whole company, and you've become part of who they are and their success as well.
totally. So I guess in talking about success, it comes to mind like customer retention and that sort of stuff. So I'm curious, strategy wise, when you're thinking about customer success and retention, like what are the things that you're tracking? How are you approaching that across clients? I mean, I know you have different businesses, but what's your sort of high level approach?
Yeah, in terms of customer retention, well, there's one thing is at the beginning, you're doing things that are not so scalable. And then moving forward, you have to put in place processes. So like you really need the right tools. And once again, yeah, I think there's a tool for each business because we don't track in the same way. But yeah, it's implementing different flows according to the downloads, the reason for if they uninstall the app, if we can track like the events, if they go to the checkout and they don't necessarily upgrade their plan, we need to find the reason why. And there's also an interesting topic about having a freemium app. So they'll start with the freemium, test it out, and then you usually forget about it because it's free. And yeah, getting them to upgrade, that's also important. And I think the only way is to show them, hey, we're here, we'll help you, we're here, we're taking you by the hand, and we're taking you and moving you forward so you can really use the full benefits of our solution. And yeah, that's quite a big part of the business as well on the support side.
Right. Because I mean, a lot of people talk about SaaS because of this long tail effect, right? You have a customer and then they pay monthly for most SaaS business models. And that's kind of the power. It's like, okay, very, very high profit margin, and there's a sustained long tail effect. So I think making sure that you didn't mess that up and have, bad customer retention is critical to making sure that the business scales and that you're accurate in your projections. So changing gears a little bit here, I'm curious more on like a little bit jumping in the technical side and just sort of like the news now. What are you seeing sort of the B2B SaaS industry with AI on the ground? I mean, you're working with developers, you have a team, you have a lot of people. Like, how are you approaching AI? Are you using it personally? Is your team using it? Are you seeing like productivity gains, or is it overhyped?
No, we are using it, but everything in measure. Like for support, it's definitely the quality of your communication improves a lot with AI. You save a lot of time on tasks on everyday tasks. For the developers, I know that sometimes they get a bit irritated because AI is smarter than them when they and they can pop in a question and maybe get a resolution on their code or something. But in terms of implementing into features, we've realized that a lot of SaaS that advertise AI is more like a marketing, and it's more like, especially with all those predictive models, they're more it's machine learning more than actual AI. But yeah, AI is a cool marketing thing to have on your product.
Okay, and so if you would say where it brought the most productivity gains for you, what part of the business would you say that was in?
I'd say mostly everything that has to do with legal, admin, support, communication. Yeah, that's where AI is the easiest and yeah, is the most useful.
Interesting, because you were saying earlier, right, that customer support and success is so important. And I know that as you transition, like when you start the company, it's just you and there's some other people, and you've got some assistants like doing the customer support. As you scaled that, were you able to like save time? Were you able to create like templates, or is it able to come up with like effective responses?
Yes.
Or are you constantly in
Like
there
in
like
terms of support,
monitoring?
for example, we use Intercom, and they have this way that you can actually train your support engine. So now when we have like redundant questions and we make a really nice reply and useful reply, like they'll ask us if we want to save it, and next time the similar customer will have. But obviously we don't send out anything like automatic AI bots, not at the level of support we want. But yeah, we already have all the framework in place for specific solutions, and also it evolves. Like we'll have a lot of questions on one thing, but then we'll fix that so it's clearer in the app, and we don't have that question anymore. So it will be something else. So, and also it helps you in terms of yeah, knowing like when a feature comes in feature request comes in very often, it groups it, and you know how many people you had. Like automatization is really, really effective with AI and stats. And yeah, no, I'm really happy. Didn't start my company 2 years ago.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I mean, it's still, I think there is still something to say about a lot of the SaaS solutions that are very niche specific, because I think a lot of the like pass the butter kind of like easy human tasks that we just like repetitively do, and like report filing and all stuff like that, that can pretty easily get sorted out with AI. But I think if it's very specific to a vertical, if it's highly regulated as an industry as well, those are industries that are going to be way harder to disrupt with AI. So I think that a lot of them are safe, or ones that require a lot of human touch points, or like shipping industry. Like this is not so
Exactly.
easy to just be like, oh, a robot's going to deliver, something. Not right now.
No, we're not ready for that yet. I don't think so.
Yeah. So I think that's quite cool with your company as well, that there's still quite a bit that's like very important, that it is very specific to the companies that you work with, and that it's a very tailored solution, right? So transitioning a bit here as well, I want to talk a little bit about your time as a leader and going from, you've worked in a company before, but then you're now in charge of running a team, and that sort of stuff. So I'm curious, what has been the biggest challenge so far in running a team, hiring, firing, like all this stuff in there? Like what's kind of the most difficult thing for you so far?
Well, right now we're not a huge team. We're between 10 and 15 people, depending on the season. So what I like to do is have people I trust in those different time zones, and then they're in charge of hiring a small team around them. To make things go forward. The human part of the job is not because everyone is in different countries and different time zones or working from home or whatever. The human part is really, really important if you want to grow a team. So yeah, it requires to be on top of things, not forget a birthday or birth or something. So yeah, in order to have everyone really implicated as a team, share results, communicate really efficiently. But we never do meetings, for example. Everything is written down. Everything is proof, and we work fast. We don't. That's the part of my job I like the most. So it's gonna be hard for me to say what's really challenging me, because this is a big part of my job I like.
You like the team. Yeah. I think it's so interesting that some people really have a hard time with it. And I've talked to some business owners as well, where they might be hiring for a position, but then there's kind of this younger generation of people entering the workforce, and they have a very different sort of idea about work. They've come through this COVID era where it was, hey, work at home. You really have a lot of leeway. I'm not sure if you experienced that at all, where people are like, hey, I'm here for like 1 year, and then they just are like, oh, it's difficult, I'm going to go, to another job, or kind of switch this type of thing. Because I read a lot about
Yeah,
this.
no, we don't have a lot of turnover. Also, I wouldn't say that our team is specifically young either. Everyone's in between their 30s and between 30 and 50. Yeah, it's an experienced team, and yeah, we've all adjusted during COVID, I think, from the work from home. Everybody works from home. Some prefer the office. They have office available for them. And no, I think there's freedom. At the end of the day, it's the result that counts, not where you're working from, what time you're working from. I don't have time to see how many hours they worked, or no. If the result is not there after a while, well, we will talk about it. But for now, it's really something that's been flowing easily. But I haven't experienced yet working with really young staff. But hopefully, as the marketing team goes, I think I'll go and and check out what the millennials have to say.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Sometimes I'll see a team where it's a marketing head or CMO of a company, and they're like 21, and of a company doing 100 million a year. It's like, that's insane.
Yeah,
But
I'm thinking
that's how
of
it
that
is.
for my next move.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, tell me more about that, because I know before you had some people in marketing, you had a lot of different people kind of doing different tasks. Like, how are you thinking about marketing these days?
Yeah, I think you need to have a voice. You need to have a clear vision that you don't necessarily have when you start a company. So it's really hard to communicate on something you're still busy building. But once you have a model and it works, then you really need to go all in on that, and then yeah, get people to know you, build partnerships, and be very active and forward thinking, and show your face, which is not necessarily something that any of my team likes to do right now, and I don't think I'll never make them change, but they're really good at other things. So yeah, I think that once you've got your product out there and you know where you want to go, I think it's really worth hiring a team of specialists that will build in proper funnels, target the right customers, and have a real strategy in place.
Yeah, I think when we started, and maybe you could speak a little bit about this, but sort of some of the learnings that you had going in, where we were kind of building out a sales process, building out like a marketing motion. What was kind of your experience, with us? Like, what were some of the learnings and takeaways there?
Well, I think it's when you're too focused on your product, you don't think of actually how other people will perceive it, not the users itself once they're using it, but I mean how to get the people to actually click on the button and download your product. So yeah, it was really useful to see how yeah, we work together on how other companies are set up, the importance of sales and marketing in a tech company. You can have the best product in the world, if you're not marketing it, nothing will happen. So yeah, it's really what helps you take off. Also optimize like Google Ads, try out different things, see what where your customers are hanging out, or your potential customers are hanging out. Get into forums, get into and not too long descriptions, but really, yeah, focusing on 3 or 4 items, 3 or 4 core features that are actually bringing value to the customer. And that was really important to have that framework and to have like these ongoing weekly sessions where, yeah, we can discuss that, see what other founders were going for as well, or what they were going through, I mean. And yeah, I learned a lot from that. And also having someone that you're accountable. You have to be, yeah, accountable for performing actions, because you get lost. And marketing does take focus and does take time. It's not just something you do on a Sunday afternoon. So it's like, yeah, it's a discipline.
I think that's a good way of putting it, because I remember at the start you had a lot of products that you were kind of thinking about. You're like, oh, we have this like multiple different Shopify ones, and you're like, well, let's just do 3, and then we were like, no, wait, let's go back, slow down, and focus in on one. Looking back on like to that Dominique that was about a year ago or so, what advice would you have given yourself as you're kind of finding product market fit and growing? Like, what's something you learned now that you would have said, oh, if I had known that then, we'd be much further along now?
Choose your battle.
Choose your battle.
No, it's about really finding out where's the highest potential, and doubling on it, and not going and putting all your efforts everywhere, because you're just gonna spread yourself thin at the end of the day. So it's really find where the gap is, and then go all in on that part.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's kind of like the Pareto principle. It's where basically 80% is not pushing like 20% is pushing the vast majority of the growth. So like focus in on that 20%, double down, do like 10 times more on that, rather than just doing like all these other things. The example that comes to mind for me is that we have a lot of people that are trying cold outbound, like cold calling, cold email ads on Facebook, LinkedIn ads, and all this stuff. And then it's like, well, which one's actually bringing you a return right now? And they're like, yeah, well, we'll just spend more on, let's try TikTok ads tomorrow. And it's like, no, just spend 5x more on the one that's working, and spend your time on that.
For sure. For us, it was Google Ads, for example. That's where we realized that's what was bringing traffic. But for another company, it might be Facebook or the apps on their own marketplace, or yeah. Some others it will be that are very niche, it can be forums as well. There's no, I think you must have a basis of SEO though. Like that is still something that you need to have optimized, and you must do the regular blogging, sharing info, just to show that you exist. But in terms of paid media, like yeah, or paid, because like we also tried like paying for blog posts in well-known magazines, and I thought it would be a success, and it wasn't necessarily. So yeah, you make a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and having someone that can actually consult and help you focus on that one thing is really helpful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So it's interesting that Google, that you say SEO, because from what some studies are coming out right now, and I think trending is that SEO is becoming less effective overall, like, and will trend downward as people start to switch away from Google as their go-to, search engine or whatnot. And it's less the 10 blue links, but then it becomes this contextualized answer, right? Where you can kind of get in front of people. So what is your thought on sort of that shifting landscape of AI? So like, where do you think the future, like let's go 10 years or 5 years down, let's say 5 years, because 10's crazy, we're changing every 3 months, but let's say 5 years down the line, where do you think you want to focus your marketing efforts, or what are you really thinking about strategy that way?
Yeah, 5 years down the line, it will be interesting. But yeah, I think in terms of marketing, what will work is the communities. Like people, when they have a specific need, they will enter straight into a community and get feedback from other users. I think that's people want to exchange. Even you see it in small villages here in France. People go to their Facebook to a Facebook group of their own village to ask what the hairdresser's doing. Well, it's going to be the same for SaaS. Like, I have this problem. Have you solved it? Yes. How? And yeah, it will basically be other humans.
Well, okay, and then let's dive into that, because I also noticed this. I mean, there's a lot of people where you might spend $10,000 to acquire a client that might pay you 50 or 100,000 with ads. But then again, if you think about a lot of these companies, they're not siloed off. You know, if you're at a certain level, if you're doing $100 million a year as a company, you're probably going to know some other companies or founders that are on a similar basis to you. And if you say, hey, look, I found a great tech solution, or someone who's able to make like these great in-house products for us, what do you think is going to be more effective? If they see a cold ad of you, like, could also work, but or they just say, hey, my friend Dominique over here has got a great company, and like this sort of word of mouth thing. So,
Word
or
of mouth.
conferences, right? So
Because the more we're going through automation, like the same thing with the SEO, people can like now have 100 blogs in a week posted, and I don't think quantity really matters. Now it's about, yeah, the like I think short form information, but really powerful, and that's like social proof, a friend that tells you this is great, or you showing one thing in 5-10 seconds that really works, and it's like a bit impulse. Because we're like drowned in so much information.
totally, totally. I was going to say, like, I think most people are kind of sick of having too much and pushed in front of them. And I also get sick of on Google in my sphere right now. I don't like to Google right now, because there's just so much that's not relevant to me when I'm going through it. So that I would rather just go to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity to get the answer. So, or even better, if I have a friend who has like already solved that thing, then just go to them, right? So I think, maybe, are you noticing as well, like you're also going to like conferences, or you're seeing a return to people actually wanting to travel, shake hands, look someone in the eye, and meet them? Do you think that's also going to be an effective part of your strategy, or are you still or are you more on the digital side?
Yeah, I think so, but it will be also for training. Like I'm thinking of going to like dev summits with the relevant people building certain types of products to really get the training in person, because we're sometimes we get tired of looking at a screen, and we actually need a real human to face you and to give you the information. So I think it's the same in business. Like, yes, most of my deals, bigger deals over 50K deals I closed where we never met each other. But at least within my work environment, I think it's really important. Even though like we're a fully remote team, I know every single person on my team personally. So yeah, for work, for sure. And then yeah, going to meetings. Yeah, you'll remember easily someone that you've met and you shook hands with, rather than someone you met over a Zoom call. For sure.
Yeah, I that's like such an interesting take, because it, for some of my team members, I've never actually, most of my team members I've never met in person, but I feel like I know them so well. But I think it's great. I mean, at one point you mentioned you also went and visited some of your teammates, or you've flown them out, or in different capacities. Like,
Yeah,
how was that?
yeah. No, we did. So either I would go there and stay with them, or at in the office for like 2 weeks, and I'll work with them, and we'll, even though we're each on our laptops, just the fact of being together and then being able to catch a meal together at the end of the day, that's pretty cool. But otherwise, yeah, this year I think we're thinking of bringing, yeah, everyone to Europe, and have like some gathering in Paris or Spain. Yeah.
That would be cool. That's, I think, having a team building sort of like real meetup is, I think, really good. Like, that's something that I did one time, and I loved doing it, and it was so great to meet the people in person. So
Yeah, for staff
very
retention, I
cool.
think it's very important,
Yeah.
because like people now, they can make easily money and be a freelance and have like run 5-6 jobs but at the end of the day, what they want is real human connection, and they want to feel part of a project. They want to feel trusted. That vision of work has changed for them. What makes them happy Now it's not necessarily a huge paycheck, but more, a project, and feel at ease at work, even though they're at home.
Yeah, no, I think people always want this like feeling of making a difference, of actually growing and being a part of the trajectory, the change, and like the growth of something. So, um, I think it totally makes sense. Um, Going back a little bit, just in terms of the sales side and sort of like the that part of your company, I'm curious. We talked before when you were landing some of these bigger clients. What was sort of your approach, or what would you recommend, I guess, to other SaaS founders that are approaching kind of semi mid to long sales cycles that are quite typical in B2B SaaS? Um,
Yeah. Well, it all depends. It depends because, like, I've had like really big companies looking, like big transport companies, reaching out to me directly and then it was about more price and timing, and that was how you'd close the deal. But then I would say with if you're dealing with other enterprise clients better that are more like us and that have their own company, that aren't part of a big group, I'd say really you have to stand out in the middle of a lot of offering. Like, a lot of people will say, hey, I can build this for you, I can do this at a cheap rate. If you're lucky enough, the client already had bad experiences taking something, a cheap product already, and so like you have to really build trust, be there when they have questions, understand, I really understand their business, and once you're in there and they trust you, then you can really close your deal. But yeah, once again, we're down to the social proof. Like, if you can do that, you can offer large deals if you can show that you've built stuff that's been useful to other merchants before, and use that in your funnel to then. And it's not just about putting a review with a 5 star on your website. It's really showing through a case study, something interactive, that you're expert in that particular problem you're solving.
yeah, which is quite difficult, I'd imagine, because the companies that you're targeting, there's not as many, right? It's a smaller niche of the market where you're saying, hey, look, we can solve this very specific type of SaaS problem, where maybe hey, my engineers are great, they can do a bunch of different things, but you're going out there and really doubling down, doing a great work on that. So I'm curious, what's sort of been, I mean, you mentioned Google as being a great way um, to land clients, but I mean, when you're looking at enterprise clients, what sort of advice would you give to a mid-sized SaaS company that's trying to scale up, for how to land those enterprise deals?
Yeah, I think it's about to show them that you're able to you have a basic product, and you're able to tailor it and make it unique for them. And same thing with the SaaS pricing model, for example. Like, some clients like the monthly recurring payments. Some clients will go for the one-time fee at the beginning and then have their unique model. So be able to place offers that will suit the type of client you're focusing or you're going for. And it's with that flexibility that you can land the clients. And obviously think like them. If you're a merchant, what are you going to do? Are you going to use where, if you were in their shoes, where would you look to solve your problem? How would you like to be approached? And that's enterprise clients. I don't think it's something you can really scale. Like, it becomes, it's really large deals, and they'll be responsible for, maybe if you're starting off, 50% of your turnover in the first year. So, like, it's really worth, yeah, getting out of the way. And, like, if there's a question at 2 a.m. or something, or if you think about something they mentioned at the last meeting, just send it to them. Like, build that personal relationship and get into their business, show that you're helpful, and then once they trust you, they know you'll have the team to implement it. So
Okay, so it's like really trust building at the beginning, from what it sounds like, and then you're able to kind of get your foot in the door with some sort of an implementation, show that you're an expert in that field, in that industry, and then slowly you can build out the bigger stuff. um, that's really super valuable advice. I mean, so speaking of, your company right now and sort of the complex solutions that you're kind of servicing right now, what are, let's say what would be like the type of company that would be a really good fit for working with you at this point?
Yeah, I think that what we're really good at is understanding how different companies can work with different suppliers, different warehouses for their logistics, a lot of products, a lot of niches they want to cover, and all that we're able to fix it in one dashboard and make them have a real visual in a couple of glances, a real visual of what's going on in the company from today for the past 6 months, and how to manage their operations behind that to actually implement what they see, what they want to improve, and yeah, they can manage it straight with our system. So once again, we get inside the company. We have the dashboard for the CEO, and then we have the operation running, yeah, in the back. Everything is automated and everything, yeah. And we're so proud when we launch a new project, and yeah, we can see how we really improve everyone in the company's daily life. Yeah, and leaving them time to chat about about life, and yeah, because everything is clarified, is fluid for them, and yeah, but it was a lot of research and dev, but I think it's worth it.
100%, because it's not something that a lot of people think about. I think from our experience, there's a lot of bloat that gets built into companies because maybe they built something from some agency 10 years ago and it worked okay, it worked fine, well, like all right, and then maybe Amazon came out and built some sort of an internal tool, but it's maybe 80% accurate and it doesn't tell you the real statistics that you need to know for like which lever to pull for your business. So I think there's this interesting mix of, as well, and in our business as well, when I'm looking at data and my accountant sends me something, I'm like, well, some of this is relevant to me, but a lot of this is not actually decisionable material. Like it's not something that I can take and then say, okay, I'm going to change this in the company. So I actually have my own financial dashboard. When I'm looking at the P&L and all this stuff, I'm looking at very specific things and say like ad spend and all these other things that's really relevant to me. Whereas like what's for taxes is different, or for, in your example, it's more like shipping, warehousing, time delay. Like I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah,
things
and
in
channels,
your
because yes,
profit
they'll sell
margin.
on Amazon, but they'll sell on Walmart, they'll sell on TikTok Shop, they'll sell on Shopify, and yeah, and they'll have different prices, and they'll sell wholesale, and they'll sell and merchant. Like, yeah, they need really different levels of information tailored to specific parts or aspects of their business, and as well the marketing side, their ad spend, their profitability on a product once you remove the marketing fees, and yeah, everything's about data. If you want to make the right decisions, you need to have proper data, and then you need to be able to implement it.
So when you went about creating the product, I'm curious what the steps were, or when that journey of finding product market fit. Like what was that like for you, and when did you kind of say, oh, we've got it, we're onto something here. It's not just two people like asking for this feature. This is our product. We really have people that want this. What was that
Yeah.
journey?
Well, I took an approach to go and look for clients, get them to tell them, yeah, okay, I'll build your product, and then go back to my team and say, okay, we have to build this, and now, how can we build this? And then the more we built it, the more we refined it as well for us. And then another client would come along and want other features, so we would build more features, and then we just built the products using using client input. It was, yeah, it all boils down to the client's needs in the end. And because we have a serious background in e-commerce and tech, we knew that with some good research and seeing what was out there and why the client didn't find what he needed, why he needed a custom solution, then we were able to move up and do it for him. It's about taking the time.
I see. So a lot of like real iteration, getting responses from real founders that you're working with that are specific to your industry. Very, very valuable stuff. So as we slowly wrap up here, I have a couple of sort of quick fire questions. The first one is, what would be your top 3 tools right now that you're using that you couldn't live without in your company or with your business?
Top 3 tools. Well, one is Intercom for sure, for our support. AI all the way. Mental, that's our Shopify app tool. It tracks all the events. It's great. It's got great automations as well for emailing, and they really know what the stats that Shopify app developers want. And then my AI assistant, Pro is is very useful for everyday's communication. Yeah.
Wait, what the last one is? Your own AI assistant?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then if you had a magic wand, what would be one thing in your business that you would solve instantly?
Oh yeah, if I had a magic wand, what I would solve instantly is server space. When we get a lot of downloads all at once, it would just go up automatically.
Okay. Love it. Love it. That makes sense. And just in terms of being a CEO, it's stressful. It's hard. You have people's livelihoods on your hands. Like, there's so much going on. What are you doing right now to sort of prevent burnout and to kind of keep you going in this journey?
I think when you're a CEO and you have this setup with different time zones and clients all over the world, I think it's very important to set your own boundaries and to like listen to your body and what it needs. And in terms of regular sleeping patterns, healthy food, time, off-screen time, time for your family, if you don't if you don't have like a very strict self-discipline, it's a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, that's a hard one for a lot of people to learn. But it sounds like you've started to dial it in. And my last question is, what do you hope to leave behind in the whole software space and the software world as sort of a legacy, or what do you hope to kind of put your imprint on?
Well, I'm really implicated in the whole women in tech community. So I'd say yes. I know we're not taught that we can be in the tech industry, and we're not raised like that. But if you're passionate about it, it's really a great job where you can have like a family life and you can study, you can learn, you can meet incredible people. And I'd encourage really all women to get out there and and to just do it. You start and see where it takes you. But if you're passionate about it, I think you can just make it work.
Perfect. And where can people find you if they want to connect, or other women in the space, or anyone that's looking for this? Where can they find you online?
Just give me a connect on LinkedIn under Dominique Cook. I'll be really happy to have a chat with you, or to discuss any questions. I'm happy to help the same way that I got help from people.
Lovely. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dominique. It's been great to chat with you, and thank you so much for coming on. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you.